Gamers, welcome to the channel. I hope you're doing well. Thank you so much for joining me. Today I'm bringing you game review number 6. And if you haven't seen any of my previous game reviews, please feel free to check those out. I'm going to leave a link to those right up here. And then these game reviews all come from games that I played on stream. So if you missed those streams, feel free to go back and check those out. I'll leave a link to the VODs right up here as well. And then finally, if you have any gameplay footage of any games that you played, or if there's anybody else in particular that you would like to see a game review for, please feel free to let me know in the comments below. If you enjoy this type of thing, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel, and I'd very much appreciate that. Anyways, let's get into this game review, and to start with, I always like to look at the unit decks and compare my opponent's deck compared to mine, and see where there might be some advantages and whatnot, and kind of develop a strategy from there. So first, if we look at the core units here, he's running the Blinks and the Blink Hunters, while I have the Recalls and the Blink Hunters. So with the Recalls, I think they are a little bit better as a defensive unit. They can easily get around to all your different resource bases or to your main base. However, the Blinks are definitely going to be much better at being more aggressive and taking on fights that you feel might be more advantageous to you. So that's something to be aware of, and just got to be careful always of those Blinks and that Blink ability that they have, so you don't want to get caught off guard with that. Next, let's look at the Tier 2 Foundry units. Looks like we're running the same thing with the King Crabs and the Heavy Hunters, so no advantages there. Anyways, if we compare this to my Tier 2 Starforge units, then I would say he probably has a little bit of an advantage, as I only have air units in my Starforge, and he's got the Heavy Hunters, which should deal pretty well and pretty effectively against all my air units here. So I would give him a slight advantage there. And then if we look at the Tier 3 Foundry units, he's got the Behemoth, and I have the Heavy Ballista, and so I would give myself a slight advantage there, as I like the Heavy Ballista just a little bit more than the Behemoth. And again, if we compare this to my Starforge is all air units, so he's going to have that slight advantage, I think, because of the Heavy Hunters. Next, if we take a look at his Tier 2 Starforge units, he's running the Stinger and the Falcon, whereas I have the Falcon and the Dragonfly. And so it'd be an interesting matchup here, because he could mix in some Blink Hunters into his army if he goes for his Tier 2 Starforge, and then he would have a pretty strong army potentially with the Blink Hunters and the Falcons and the Stingers. However, he'd have to play that pretty well and effectively, as I could deal with Blink Hunters pretty well myself with just the Falcons. Falcons do very well usually up against Tier 1 anti-air units. So the Falcons should do pretty well in that matchup, and then I could also throw in a few Dragonflies potentially to try to catch him off guard and maybe raid his base or something. So I would say I have a slight advantage with the Starforge. However, if he goes Starforge and I go Foundry, then I would say that might be a bit more of an even matchup, as the Heavy Hunters should do okay against the Falcons. However, you always need to be careful against Stingers because of how fast they are. The Stingers could potentially do pretty well against King Crabs if my opponent is good enough at kiting those King Crabs, and so the King Crabs will just have a tough time getting into melee range of those Stingers, depending on how the game plays out. So I wouldn't necessarily say there's any clear advantage in that regard. And then if we look at the Tier 3 Starforge unit that my opponent has, he's got the Advanced Spot, and compared to my Tier 3 Starforge, he would have a bit of an advantage here. The Valkyrie would not do too well into the Advanced Spot, so I would say if he were to get to his Tier 3 Starforge, then I would start to struggle a little bit against him. However, if he goes Tier 3 Starforge and I'm able to get up to Tier 3 Foundry, then I believe I should again do pretty well against that. So with all that said, I like my chances here no matter which tech I go into, at least especially for the Tier 2 tech that I have. The only thing I feel I would really need to be a little concerned about is his Advanced Spots, and maybe the Stingers a little bit as well. So those are, I think, the two biggest threats that he has against me right now. So I'll let this play out a little bit here and see how this game develops. And it looks like my opponent's going to tech into the Falcons and the Stingers, and so it looks like I am also teching up into Starforge as well. So an interesting choice by me. I think this should work pretty well for the most part. Like I said, I just got to be a little careful of the Stingers here. Alright, so I'm moving up my Recalls a little bit, getting ready to defend against any potential pushes he might have here. He's bringing in some Blinks, it looks like. I just got to be careful not to take too much damage from these, and then I also have to be careful not to let him get into my workers there. if we go back and look at this, we can see he does a great job of picking off one of my recall units. So I definitely was not careful enough there, and did not focus fire very well with my units. Always try to, when you're using these ranged core units, always try to focus fire if you can onto a single target, so that you can hopefully take one unit out quicker than your opponent. So not the biggest deal, but I definitely should have played that a little bit better. So he's got a little bit of a lead on me there now. So I'm just building up my recalls and waiting for my tech to come online, and it looks like my opponent's going to immediately tech again into his tier 3 Starforge. So like I said, I need to be a little bit careful of these advanced spots and not underestimate them. It's going to be very difficult for me to go air against his advanced spots, so I gotta be careful of that. And in fact, I would even say, yeah, here we go. So I'm going into the Foundry, which I think is a good choice. I need to start going a different route now that I know he's going into his tier 3. So I could take a chance and try to push across the map right away, right now, but I think I would have too far to go to get there. I don't think that would pay off very well for me there. So I think teching up into my Foundry is probably the better way to go here. So now I'm just teching up and waiting for that to come online. I don't want to use too many of my resources right now because I'm waiting for my tech to come online, and I'll probably want to use more king crabs or potentially even the heavy hunters. So I don't want to use too many resources here, but I think getting a couple of these dragonflies out is a pretty good plan here. The dragonflies can just be very good at getting your opponent to overreact and overcommit, as they are pretty good at raiding. And they should be good at getting away as well. So this will just be a nuisance to him, and hopefully cause him to overreact a little bit and try to defend with too many anti-air units. So now that he sees the dragonflies coming out and taking out his workers, this is going to force him to make some tier 1 anti-air units to try to deal with the dragonflies. And every single tier 1 anti-air unit that I can get him to make is going to prevent him from making a couple of the advanced spots. So it's going to be much better for me overall here. So I'm just doing a good job, I think, here of taking out the workers here. And there we go. He's bringing out the blink hunters, which is taken away from his potential advanced bots there. And he's chasing those around. And I'm just doing a good job, I think, here of getting these into position. My plan, I think, is going to be to try to pick off some more workers later on. So you kind of just put the dragonflies off to the side like this, and that way you can use them later on to attack more workers. And that also forces him to keep some units back at base, so when you eventually bring out your army, he's going to be down some units as he's trying to defend every base with some anti-air. So he's leaving a bunch of advanced spots back at home, which is great for me. And now here I'm going to try and do a multi-attack, sneak attack, whatever you want to call it. And I'm going to try to send my king crabs onto his first expansion resource base, and then I'll try to attack roughly about the same time with my recalls as well onto his second expansion resource base there. So I know that especially with this many king crabs, there's quite a lot of king crabs. They should be able to take this base down pretty quickly. So I feel pretty confident I'll be able to get that, and I do. And then I'll just try to get away with whatever I have left of the king crabs after that. So I potentially could have done this a little bit better without sacrificing so many king crabs, but at the end of the day, I don't like to be too critical and too harsh on myself, but it's definitely something to keep in mind to try to learn from. So at least I got the base. That's setting him back quite a bit, and then also he wasn't quite ready for my recalls to attack at the same time, and so he loses his other base here as well. So now that I have the both of the bases destroyed, I have a clear advantage now with my base. So I'm getting my recalls out of there, and I'm pulling back on my king crabs as well. I'm just trying to get everything out of there and save my army as much as possible, because now I have a clear resource advantage here with my workers. So now all I need to do is defend this, and I should be able to win the game from here. So I like that I'm able to still do a couple of raids there with the dragonflies. That's always good. And then I still have a couple of them still alive to pose that threat to him still. He's still got to pay attention and be careful and be ready for those. So he can't ignore that threat. So now I'm grouping up my army, and I'm getting ready for him to push in. I know he's going to have to be aggressive here and push in with his army to do something about this base to try to level out the playing field here, since I have the lead and advantage on him. So we'll see how this goes. I'm losing track a little bit of my army here. It looks like I'm trying to make some more units on the side here, and I'm kind of losing track of my army, so just be careful of that. Always be mindful of that. He's a bit quicker here than I expect, I think. So, and it looks like I'm going to try to wrap around with these king crabs, and it looks like I'm underestimating a little bit his army and just how quickly he's pushing in here. So I think my idea here is to get these king crabs behind him. Otherwise, it could actually be pretty easy for him to just kite my army. He's got those blinks, so he's got a little bit of an advantage there in being able to potentially out-micro me and kite me in that sense. So I think it's a good idea for me to try to flank him and get behind him with some king crabs here, but overall, I'd say, you know, it's poorly executed so far, so not looking too great for me. I'm losing too many units right now. He's getting his army in here, taking me out pretty quick. But here come the king crabs, so let's see how this plays out here. Finally got the king crabs in there. They're doing some damage, doing some tanking, and it looks like I'm able to clean that up pretty nicely, actually. So all in all, that turned out pretty well for me, but I think it definitely could have gone better. If I back this up here and take a look at it again, actually I'm gonna have to go back even further here. So if I go back to here, we can see I'm falling back with like my main army here into my base, and I'm already starting to wrap around with those king crabs. But at this point, I should already see that it's going to take too long for my king crabs to wrap around behind him. So what I should really be doing here is leave my king crabs off to the side here, and then just bring the rest of my army back inside my base. That's basically what I ended up doing, but I took way longer than I should have with the king crabs because I was trying to wrap them all the way around this space here, and I didn't have to go that far. I could have just left them off to the side over here, and then they would have been able to get in on the fight a lot quicker. So definitely a mistake there. I lost a lot more than I should have. I could have won this fight pretty convincingly, but either way, it turns out pretty good for the most part for me. I still have the advantage on him, able to clean up most of his army there. And now I see that he makes another resource space. So he expands into another resource space. So now I know after destroying most of his army there, I'm going to be able to take out his new resource space pretty quickly here. So I think that might be a little bit of a mistake, but he also might be a little desperate at this point, knowing that he's pretty far behind at this point. So now I think it's just a matter of me pushing up with the army that I have and trying to send out reinforcements when I can. And I think I should be able to clean this up. So I'm just moving my army up, bringing in some reinforcements, and I think I'm just trying to go as quickly as I can here to put the pressure on him before he's able to build his army back up. So I think it's good for me to try to get there as quickly as possible. And I think this is pretty good by me as well, trying to spread out my army a little bit so that they're all able to kind of try to attack at the same time, and so that he's not able to kite me too much. I need to, he's got faster units, so I need to try to kind of surround him a little bit in order to get a good fight against him. So I think that's good for me to surround him kind of like that, spread out my units a little bit. And now I can go back to focusing down the base here. And once I get the base down, then he's pretty much just too far behind at this point. So I'm getting a few more reinforcements here, and it looks like he's just going to throw in the towel here, as I just got a little too far ahead of him. So there we go. Good game. Well played to my opponent. He was definitely a tough one that I encountered many times, and he definitely got the better of me many times as well. So I think the two biggest takeaways for me in that game, I think, was the double pronged attack that I was able to do with the king crabs and my recalls, both attacking two different bases at about the same time. And an attack like that can be very difficult for your opponent to defend, and if he doesn't play his cards just right, can quickly lose both bases. So I think that played out very well for me there. But then also the fight when he was pushing into my base, and I had a group of king crabs trying to wrap around to flank him from behind. I think that's just a good lesson for me to learn, that I don't need to take the scenic route, basically, of wrapping my king crab all the way around, and instead I could just kind of put them off to the side there where he can't quite see them, and then as he's pushing into my base, then I could just bring him in from that direction. So I think that would have worked even better for me there. So those are the big takeaways for me there. Anyways, I think that's going to do it for me today. If you enjoyed this, please leave a like and subscribe. I'd very much appreciate that. And thank you as always for joining me, and I'll see you soon in the next one.